Nothing Personal starts in 30 seconds. It's just business. This is Nothing Personal.
Here you go. Here you go.
Mortal. That's the Nothing Personal word of the day. It is Monday, February 10th, 2025. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs are mortal. How are we feeling today? Despondent that the season's over, recognizing that you've got 200 days until you get to watch pro football again? Or are you like me and super excited? Used to be my favorite day of the year. It means the baseball season's here. Spring training gets to start this week. Are you an Eagles fan and you've been up all night and you're tired, did a little eye makeup, get a little less puffy, celebrating your second World Series? 4869, celebrating your second Super Bowl in 8 seasons? Sat down to watch the game and I was ready for a competitive game. I was ready to witness history, the possibility of it, a three-peat, picturing Pat Riley watching the game. Everything's going great. The intros, everyone's jacked up. Little did I know that Nick Sirianni and his players knew from the beginning that this was not going to be a competitive game. For 2 weeks, they were shocked at all the talk of how competitive this game was going to be. All the people choosing Eagles 27, Chiefs 24, Chiefs 27, Eagles 24. Everyone had it as a relatively close game, a few exceptions, but many standard deviations away. Saquon Barkley, props. Will he get 150 yards, 130 yards? He's unstoppable. Patrick Mahomes attempting to catch Tom Brady in his 30s. Everyone's ready, sitting, watching commercials. And before I know it, I'm looking at the game and I'm saying the Philadelphia Eagles defense is reminding me of the Giants defense of my height as a football fan with Lawrence Taylor and Harry Carson in that group. Their defensive line, I'm looking at Leonard Marshall and I'm thinking, God, the Philadelphia Eagles are not even blitzing. They actually became a team that didn't blitz one time. There's been about 6 teams that didn't do one blitz over the course of a Super Bowl. And don't worry, it doesn't work well. Those 6 teams are undefeated. If you have that good a defensive line, you're going to win a game. So many times in sports, we are so focused on what the GMs are doing in the big names, the big departments, quarterback, the biggest free agent. In baseball, I'm definitely able to tell you that it doesn't take a genius to go after Ohtani. Find me a performing, middle-of-the-road player. Find me someone no one's heard of that will help me win a World Series or help me get to the playoffs. So much talk in the NFL about quarterbacks and who's making what. Will Sam Darnold be given a franchise tag of $40 million? What will Aaron Rodgers do? We'll get to that later if he doesn't return to the Jets, which he's not. Do we pay this guy or that guy? How's Trevor doing? Howie Roseman, the executive, one of the best guys in the game to put a team together, he said, I'm going to use the salary cap rules. I'm going to put a bunch of void years out, which means that you get to have way more players on your team now and take advantage of the cap and really load up your team. And then he said, I'm going to do it in a way where I'm going to build the best offensive and defensive line in the game. And let's see what happens. Now, of course, he brings in Saquon Barkley at a year when running backs were not exactly the most ratio shape position. Giants fans were sort of despondent that he went to the Eagles, but not despondent they were losing Saquon, despondent that it was an NFC East team. it only took 18 weeks and a run to and including the Super Bowl. And then Giants fans were like, oh man, we missed out on having that, as he almost broke the season rushing record held by Eric Dickerson. But it was a moderate pickup. Harry Roseman is getting a ton of credit right now. And when you started watching the Super Bowl, you're looking and you're saying, I can't exactly remember. Was this center hurt last week? That guy wasn't playing right guard. What about on the defensive line? Is that who's been there the whole time? And we weren't getting any sort of information from Tom Brady. So we had to assume for ourselves. And my assumption was they've got depth, they've got power, they've got strength, they've got size. Tom Brady did mention that he thought they were all 350 pounds, and he tried to multiply 350 times 5, and someone got into his ear 1750. Thank God. Or what we could have just said was half or twice what your watch costs in millions. We could have done that, but we didn't. So I'm watching the game thinking I had this nailed. I had the tails with the toss. I got the Eagles winning at the half. I got Mahomes coming back to win MVP in the game. And then I'm watching a pick six. I'm watching Mahomes play in a way that made me realize that he's overmatched, that even his magic can't sustain against the Eagles defense. And it didn't. 23 yards at the half, you're done. Tom Brady could have told us what they did at halftime, down 28-3, or whatever the halftime score was, but they were down 28-3 in that Super Bowl when he came back to beat the Falcons. That would have been some value added. Could have thought what Spags was going to do, what the Eagles were going to do, and the best we heard is don't be one-dimensional coming out of halftime, and the Chiefs go 3-and-out, getting the ball right after the half. So I'm just watching all these things, and I'm thinking, if Patrick Mahomes says something after the game about the pain of losing, it's going to be super telling. And lo and behold, Patrick Mahomes' main point after the game was how much it hurt to lose, way more than it was pleasure to win. That's when I got out of sports. Now, of course, you could say I was forced out, but let's not quibble over facts. For the last 2 years of my career, every loss hurt way more than every win felt good. There was a mentor I had in sports who told me very clearly that that was when you knew you had to stop. You can't allow the pain of the loss to overshadow the pleasure of the win. And Patrick Mahomes immediately talked about what happened in this game. He talked about his turnovers. He talked about his standards. And then he said, anytime you lose the Super Bowl, it's the worst feeling in the world. I'm in. They hurt probably more than the wins feel good. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Chiefs. People are calling it the end of the dynasty. People are saying this could be the AFC's moment to overtake the Chiefs. Could be time maybe for the Ravens, maybe for the Bills, maybe for who knows. The Chiefs now, of course, say we want to come back stronger. We want to avenge this loss. We're going to spend the entire offseason preparing ourselves for the new climb. And it's the bolder story for the Chiefs. And the funny part is it's the bolder story for the Eagles, too. The bolder story, of course, is you push the boulder up the hill all season. The Eagles push it over the top. They win the Super Bowl. But then that's it. It's back to the bottom of the mountain. And starting now, you celebrate for a minute. I would say I celebrated for a minute after winning the World Series, and then you start worrying about and thinking about the next season. It's totally ridiculous if you think about it, actually. Spending so much time to get to one place and then looking around and immediately leaving that place. And then spending maybe the rest of your career trying to get to the same place again, saying to yourself, I'll keep my eyes open for longer this time. I'll pay attention. I'll cherish each moment. Don't we all say that? If I had to do it again, I'd do it differently. I was sort of surprised when we'll look back at this game, 40-22. For those of you who didn't watch, and there's let's say 120 million people watched, and let's say there's 370 million people in the country. Let's say that's 50 million people who didn't watch. There's people around the world who have much bigger fish to fry than a Super Bowl. Tragedy, major issues happening, mostly related to our country, but some related to other African countries. We may get to that. But if you look back and say, oh, 40-22, close game. It reminds me of those garbage time scores in the NBA when you're down by 30, but the final score is 128-117. And you're, oh, that's not bad. That's a close game, but it was garbage time. Or in Major League Baseball, when you're up 11 runs and then your position player gives up 5 runs in the ninth, and the final score is, instead of being 13-4, it's 13-9. Oh, I wonder whether the closer had to get up in that one. I was thinking about all those things. Here's what I wasn't thinking about that all you were thinking about. And I don't quite understand how this happened. People are obsessed over the score bug on Fox. If you don't know what I'm talking about, we have a picture of it in our heads. And the picture of it is that Fox debuted a new score bug, and there's articles everywhere. People losing their mind. How could you dare change what is? It looks so simple. It looks like it's for old people. It's got big letters, big numbers. It's taking up more space, less space, some space. Just a little reminder to all of the loyal audience out there. You don't like change. But then, after a while, you forget what the old one looks like. Look at that score bug on the Nothing Personal with David Samson YouTube channel. If you're just listening to this, not just, we love you. Thank you. I like to know that it's KC playing Philadelphia. I like that it's 0-0. The problem I had is I couldn't read the down. To me, down and distance, it matters just as much as who's playing, or frankly, more than how many timeouts are left in the half. I'd like the down and distance to be more. I don't need the shot clock, the play clock to be bigger. I had a thought about it, for sure. But making a whole issue where you're saying that it's the worst thing since sliced bread, everybody needs to just ease up just a tad. The amount that consumers don't like change, if that is how executives followed, then we'd still be in the 1940s. Evolution, change, progress, redesign. It's constant. As a matter of fact, when you buy something at retail, there's like 5% of that cost going to people who sit around all day saying, how do I change what this person just bought? This person just decided to spend his money on this. Let's not take that for granted. Let's assume that we have to change what the person thought to spend money on, make it better. And they do. And then you spend again. Welcome to iPhone. I had this nailed, I thought, but I didn't. Nothing personal pick of the day. We're 14-18. I really thought we had it after it was tails. I've never been so happy to win a coin toss bet in my life, thinking that that was setting us up. And then when I had the Eagles at halftime, I saw them up 7-0, 10-0, I thought a 10-7 halftime score were good. 17-0, oy vey. My Chiefs money line may be an issue, but we're good. We at least got the half. Then you go to 24-0 at the half. You look at Mahomes with the quarterback rating smaller than the size of the average standard ruler, and you're thinking, this may not work out for me. So we ended up going 2-3 with our 5 Super Bowl bets. We won tails. We won the Eagles at the half. We lost Hurts over 250 yards. He ended up with 220. I didn't realize that the Eagles would be in a blowout situation. And then Mahomes was not the MVP. It was Jalen Hurts. The Chiefs' money line didn't cash. 14-18. Should be ashamed of myself. We got some basketball picks. We're going to do one pick tonight. So much going on in basketball. We're not done with football quite yet. We're not going to tie a bow. Let's take the Celtics 5.5 on the road in Miami. The Celtics coming off a huge win in New York. One thing that makes the Celtics is when you're not satisfied with that sort of road trip, you want to come into Miami and crush. The Heat are acting way happier with Butler and Golden State dropping 25. Butler and Golden State being called the force. Butler and Golden State being the answer to Steph Curry's dreams. What a perfect addition. Oh, I guess we are going for it now. Let's go. Oh, I guess we're still ninth in the West. Let's go. And the Heat are left wondering, are our guys good? Because we're certainly spending enough time announcing them. They're nowhere near the Celtics, and they're going to see that tonight. Celtics minus 5.5 in Miami. Darren Ravel is a friend of the show. He tweeted yesterday that WeatherMat, which is a company that did a Super Bowl commercial, devoted 3.6% of its annual revenue, 3.6% on the Super Bowl commercial. It's a very simple math equation for those people who advertise during the Super Bowl. There's two types of companies. There's companies that have huge advertising and marketing budgets. They have growth marketing. They've got specific brand marketing. Then they've got, if they've got some sort of partnership that they want to promote, they have budgets in the tens and 20s of millions of dollars. Every year you allocate as part of your budget, $5 million, $6 million. This year, $8 million to do a Super Bowl commercial. You then budget production, you budget talent cost, and you deliver it, and you've got yourself a Super Bowl commercial. Then, of course, there's companies that think that they want to be the San Diego Padres. The San Diego Padres of Super Bowl commercials are teams that try to be something they're not. Companies that try to be something they're not. They say, oh, this is a great idea. Let's do a Super Bowl commercial at $8 million, even though that is a huge expense, and that really is twice our entire marketing budget for a year, given the size and revenues of our company. But if we do a Super Bowl commercial, people are going to look at WeatherMats and say, oh, I've got an old woman in my life. I'm going to go buy the WeatherMats. Did you all remember that commercial? That it was the older women? They were dropping stuff and they ended up with mugshots, winking. Didn't even make my top 5. 3% of revenue. I get it. It feels so good at the moment. Have you ever done something that you know is totally irresponsible, and then while you're doing it, it feels so good, and then it's done? And then you look back and say, uh-oh, that allocation may have been wrong. Well, there's 5 companies that I want to talk about that did it right. And I'm going to go in reverse order of my 5 favorite commercials. And there's a coincidence in here in that these companies all have the sales, the revenue, in order to excuse the expense. I was not going to give. Now, they weren't in my top 5 anyway, but I would have been reticent to congratulate any company with a top 5 ranking for me who I thought had spent irresponsibly. I loved the Seal Mountain Dew commercial. People are feeling sorry for Seal. What's he doing that for? The number of celebrities who do Super Bowl commercials, just as a small FYI, and you'll see it throughout here, there's a lot of money in the budget to pay for talent. And doing a Super Bowl commercial for someone like Matthew McConaughey, an Oscar Award winner, who appears to be like a major pitch man, a lot of Oscar winners, a lot of actors, a lot of celebrities will do commercials overseas where people don't see it. They made a movie about it in large part with Bill Murray and Lost in Translation. Very, very common. There's great money to be had with celebrity. There's a bunch of celebrities that do voiceover work, or they feel as though I don't want to do this ad now. It's a little cheapening. Cheapening? All right, Sheldon, are you going to catch me again? I have a listener named Sheldon Coca. Anytime I have a word that I misspeak, I don't need Coca or Sarah to tell me because Sheldon will. Love you, Sheldon. You know I pay attention. I thought Seal was great. I don't think it's a poor reflection on his career at all that he was willing to do a Mountain Dew commercial. And it actually was my 5th favorite commercial. I thought it was amazing that Adam Brody, a winner at the Critics' Choice Awards, a hugely popular actor who sadly lost his home. That's not why he agreed to do this. Nick Offerman, James Harden. I'm in on the Pringles mustache commercial. I thought Andy Reid looked weird without a mustache. There's no doubt. Am I the first one who thinks that Andy Reid is beginning to look like Craig Stadler? Can I assume that everybody's already said that and I'm totally late to that party? Is it good if I hadn't read it and I just thought of it now? Does that count? I didn't understand how there could be two commercials. Eugene Levy did a commercial, and interestingly enough, Coca, I don't remember what it was for, but it was also mustache related. I forgot the brand, which is not a good sign. How would two companies both do mustache commercials? I need to find out. Call Pablo. Does the same parent company own the two companies that did the mustache commercials? And if not, is it the same agency who did it? How's that even possible? Well, I like the Pringles mustache commercial. That was number 4. Number 3, without a doubt, watch the Uber Eats commercial. Now, it doesn't matter if my restaurant does DoorDash, if it does Grubhub, Uber Eats, whatever it does. I do it more by the restaurant than the app. You could use the app. Matthew McConaughey, brilliant. The whole refrigerator Perry. Martha Stewart's appearance in that commercial when they laugh about Caesar Superdome, Caesar salad. It's just a smart commercial. Good use of tech. Good use of his Oscar winner. That was my third favorite, Uber Eats with Matthew McConaughey. Number 2, without a doubt, was the Hellman's commercial with Billy Crystal. If you haven't been to Katz's, go to Katz's. Sydney Sweeney makes an appearance. They bring it back to When Harry Met Sally. I'm still going to use Miracle Whip. Love the commercial. And my favorite commercial was Matt Damon and David Beckham. Go watch it if you haven't. Stella Artois did a commercial about the two Davids. Matthew Damon is brothers with David Beckham, and Ben Affleck catches a stray. I love the commercials. Normally, I watch the game on mute. I don't really care what's happening, but not during the Super Bowl. We're pretty clear. We get a memo. It's a very simple memo every year. It's funny. I'm just thinking about why we'd had to get it every year, but we do. No announcements may be made during the World Series. Every year we get the same thing. You can't announce a manager. You can't announce a coach. You can't announce a GM. You can't announce anything without talking to the league first and coordinating it. Yesterday was Super Bowl Sunday. It shouldn't be that Deebo Samuels is next up in the player empowerment trade me game. It shouldn't be that Aaron Rodgers even gets 1 minute of time. Do you remember what A-Rod did? Oh, Coca, we didn't talk about this pre-show. A-Rod did something during the World Series one year, and it had to do with him opting out of his Yankees deal and then re-signing something major to try to take the focus away, and he was highly criticized, and it ended up being a problem for him, actually. Why did the Jets want to leak information out today? Because Fox broke it. Jay Glazer, I think, was the first one to break it. Why was it necessary to get out there that Aaron Rodgers won't be coming back to the Jets? It takes away the focus. Roger Goodell must have been fierce, as well he should have been. They had Aaron Rodgers fly to Jersey and meet with the new coach, Aaron Glenn, the new GM, Darren Moogie. Here's how the meeting went. Hello, Aaron. Gentlemen, I can picture Aaron coming in very casually dressed, just sort of not caring much. I'm picturing it like Jesse Eisenberg as Mark Zuckerberg in a hoodie and sweats going to meet with some venture capital people and telling them to pound sand. I picture that Aaron Rodgers walking into the meeting. We knew what was happening with Aaron Rodgers. It was signaled by Aaron Glenn at the press conference when he was announced as coach. Woody Johnson already separated himself from the decision, saying, hey, I got nothing to do with Aaron Rodgers. This is all about what the new coach and new GM want. Total horse hockey. It was decided, and Woody Johnson has agreed, that the Jets and Aaron Rodgers are officially going to get divorced. It's not going to be announced just yet, but it's coming soon. And what a costly mess for the Jets. Aaron Rodgers as a Jet will go down in history as one of the worst combinations of expectation versus result in the history of football, maybe in the history of sports. Jets fans had this cringeworthy belief that Aaron Rodgers was their savior. 4 downs in, Achilles tendon ruptures, comes back. He had a fine season. Nothing great. I think he had like 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. It was a fine year. Nothing to write home about. The Jets went 5-12. He played all 17 games, which surprised me. He wasn't injured at all. Oh, by the way, he's 41 years old. By the way, there's only non-guaranteed money left on his contract. So the only thing the Jets are doing is they are living with an amazing amount of dead cap space, which they knew was going to be the issue with Aaron Rodgers no matter when they parted ways with him. So why not rip the Band-Aid, start over, and go get Sam Darnold? They've never had him as a quarterback. How great would a marriage be like that? Bring in the next guy to New York. Yes, of course I'm kidding. Coca. I know that Sam Darnold was a total dud with the Jets. That's the joke of it. That would be so Jets to buy Sam Darnold at the high, bring him in, and then it turns out he's just Sam Darnold. As a matter of fact, I'm rooting for that. That's got to be the play. I want to see Sam Darnold back in Jets gang green. Think Aaron Rodgers is going to retire? Is that going to be his thing? Who's going to want to sign him? People already rumored could be the Las Vegas Raiders. Basically, anybody who doesn't have a set quarterback or a young quarterback or an aging veteran quarterback who signed to a ton of money. Hey, let's take a flyer. This is better than the block that we have. I don't know how to say it any more clearly. Aaron Rodgers is finished. Let this be the end. What do you think he's going to do with Brett Favre? Do you think Sam Darnold comes to the Jets and then Aaron Rodgers goes to the Vikings to follow exactly Brett Favre's career? Packers, Jets, Vikes? It's not going to happen. Aaron Rodgers holding out to win Super Bowls as old as when Tom Brady won them? It's not going to happen. How long do you think the meeting lasted, Coca? I'm going to set an over-under right now. I think they talked about the defensive line and the offensive line. I think they exchanged pleasantries. How you doing? I think they reminisced about games where they'd faced each other, Aaron and Aaron. Of course, I have no actual proof that they did face each other, but I'll bet you they did. I think they went right to it. I think Aaron Rodgers walked in, sat down, and just said, all right, where are we? And I think Aaron Glenn came out and just said it. We've made the decision that we're going to head in a different direction. In my experience, when you have meetings like that, they're super short because you don't really want to care to spend 20 minutes. Hey, can you help me? Can you evaluate our season? Tell me everything you would do differently. Tell me everything that you're doing this off season, all the training, all the planning, all the ayahuasca. Tell me everything. Oh, by the way, we're not bringing you back. No, it doesn't work that way. You lead with that. Now, if you know you're going to extend a guy or give a guy a really good raise or a title change or a bonus, you always start with, so let's talk about you. Let's talk about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think of me? Let's talk about us. Let's talk about the company. And you talk for 20 minutes, half hour, you're going through strategies. All right, before we go, I want to just formalize what's happening next year. You're getting a 12% raise, a $20,000 bonus. And by the way, we're signing you to an extension. I think that's how that works. Can you imagine if Aaron Rodgers flew like 2 hours? Where was he? What if you were on the other side of the country for a 2-minute meeting? Makes me laugh, Coca. All right, let's take a break. But before we take a break, we're going to put a knot around the football season and say, I understand your pain today. I feel you. But come to the light. Walk toward baseball. Walk toward the season we're about to have. Have belief that in 27 cities right now, we can do it. All right, Coca. When we come back, we're going to talk basketball right after the break. Welcome back to Nothing Personal. Thank you for listening. I want to review a movie that I watched. It's nominated for an Oscar. It's a movie that's important to watch, but it's a long movie and it's a tough movie. It's called Soundtrack to a Coup d'etat. This is a movie about a country in Africa called the Congo that was looking to gain its independence from Belgium. And this is, 60 years ago. And the question is, how do you gain independence? Generally, as we know, that comes with a fight. Once independence comes, what happens when the country you've gained independence from? What would happen if Great Britain came over right in 1776 and said, hey, I think that instead of just singing about how much you're going to miss me, I think we're going to come over and start a war. And we're going to overthrow George Washington right out of the gate. It turns out that there was a serious coup that happened very soon after independence. And this movie, for 150 minutes, uses jazz as the soundtrack, as the vessel, because jazz artists were a part of the coup, as was the US and the CIA, and all sorts of nefarious stuff was going on. A, it's nominated. You should watch it. B, it's important. And C, if you know what's going on in the Congo now, the Democratic Republic, you know that Rwanda and the rebels in Rwanda, if you've watched Hotel Rwanda, you know the rebels of Rwanda are now expanding. They're trying to take over Congo. They're just killing everybody. They're allowing prisoners to escape and having all the women raped, the women prisoners. Total mayhem, totally unsafe. You can't go there now. This isn't what they had in mind when independence from Belgium happened. The fact that all these years later, they'd still be stuck basically in revolutions of their own doing, neighbors fighting with neighbors. Can you imagine a country wanting to take over another country in this day and age and make it an issue of it? And what, then using force? Is that the plan? You troop up, kill everybody, rape all the women, and then you get to have that land? Now, of course, there's tremendous resources there, but there's resources just about everywhere. It depends on what the resources are you're looking for. I was so disturbed watching this movie. And then when it was done, I started learning about what's happening today because I was so focused on what was happening back during independence. Here's what bothered me. Not about the movie. It's a movie that you should watch, but you can split it. Split it into 2 or 3 episodes. That's fine. 2 or 3 sit-ins. It's extremely hard to sit through in one sitting. But I spent the movie in all the sittings. It took me 4 sittings to watch the full 2.5 hours because it's just not an easy watch. Because it made me think about what we do as a country, what's happening all over the world in a continent I love, the African continent, what's happening so close to home. And I was trying to come to terms with how distracted I was by the negativity, which got me thinking about that I'm focused way more on the negative than I am the positive, which brought me back to baseball saying, wow, the losses hurt more than the wins feel good. And I was in this circular hole of reasoning, trying to wonder what changes I should make. And then, of course, I got back to work. Soundtrack to a coup d'etat. It's worth your time. I think when Nico Harrison, the GM of the Mavericks, envisioned the first game with Anthony Davis, I think he was a little worried about the security issues, a little worried about the reaction that Dallas fans would have after the Luka trade. But my guess is what he said is, as a competitive guy, all GMs are super competitive, don't get me wrong. My guess is that he said, here's what we're going to do. We are going to win. We're going to win so much with Anthony Davis in the middle. And the fact that we built this team that even without Luka, we're going to have sustained winning, back to the finals, win championships. Every executive has that feeling after a move. No matter what the move is, forced by money, forced by circumstance, forced by an owner, doesn't matter. When the move is made, you talk yourself as an executive, you talk yourself into saying, you're smart. You like go to the mirror and you look and you say, I'm good. I just got the better of that one. Very, very few times, even in salary dumps. I know it sounds crazy, but when you do a salary dump, you still look in the mirror and say, hey, that was a great job of dumping salary. You never know. One of these guys we got back, it could be a Dontrell Willis. You never know. Our guys are smart enough to make that so. Here's what you don't do. You don't make the Anthony Davis-Luka Doncic trade and then think to yourself, you know what's going to happen? I'm going to get so royally screwed that Anthony Davis is going to come out in his first game as a Maverick. He's going to play great, and then he's going to get hurt. Out of everything that you picture, why would you spend time examining the worst case nightmare-inducing scenario? You wouldn't. And sure as I'm sitting here today on a Monday, 35 minutes in, 15 to go, welcome to DraftKings Network. Anthony Davis got hurt. And not only did he get a little hurt, I don't mean like a skinned knee or hit in the eye, a little stitch here, a little concussion protocol there, a little tweak here. No, he hurt the abductor. That same thing that's been bothering him. And by the way, he's injured a lot. Why would you think that something would be different? I have an idea. I'm going to trade for a guy who's always hurt, and I'm going to say it's a change of scenery. All of a sudden, he's not going to be hurt. He's going to play the rest of his career. He'll barely miss a game. Anthony Davis is out for weeks, according to reports. Maybe a month. We're in February. Let's say he comes back mid-March and the season goes till end of April. The Mavericks by that time likely will be out of any championship window. It's like a nightmare. What would you do? I had this, so I will tell you what I did. I'll ask you what you would do and then tell you what I did. When you make an unpopular trade in season, you expect maybe there'll be a few people chirping, but not bad. When you trade a franchise cornerstone during the season or off season, doesn't matter, you got to prepare for a little pushback. There was definitely extra security at the Mavericks game, and I was paying attention to the little detail of what I would allow inside the arena. I don't want people at all holding signs up to say I'm bad. I don't want people doing anything other than if they want to protest on the outside, I am totally fine. But I got to be ready. It seems like the Mavericks were not. Patrick Dumont is the owner of the Mavericks. Mark Cuban was immediate to say, I had nothing to do with this. We didn't really know the role of the new owner of the Mavericks, who's been there for a year or two. We knew Nico Harrison because he was front and center. Well, you can stop wondering because Dumont gave an interview to the Dallas Morning News, and he said some stuff that should give you great comfort. He talked about the fact that the team's not moving to Vegas. I don't know what you're even talking about. Well, what we're talking is you and your mother-in-law. We're talking about the Vegas connection, and we're talking about the trade that you did. But don't worry, Dumont said, no Vegas. Mavericks are not moving. That's nice. But then he said something that is just crazy to me. He said, I'm a big Luka fan. My family are big Luka fans. I have a deep appreciation for what he brought to this team. And then he said that Luka is a Maverick for life. What do we think about that? Think Luka's a Maverick for life? When Luka goes in the Hall of Fame, do you think he'll wear a Mavericks cap or will wear a Lakers cap or another team? Luka's 25 years old. Hi, I'm David Samson. I traded Miguel Cabrera to the Tigers, but he's a Marlin for life. He was in his prime. He won a Triple Crown, everything but another World Series with the Tigers. Was there way many more years. Of all the stupid things that I've said as president of a team, you wouldn't catch me saying that I just traded a player in his prime, but don't worry, that player's a Marlin for life. It's asinine. It makes him sound ridiculous, and he had so much time to prep for what the messaging was. And his main message was, in Nico, we trust. He's doubling down on his GM who made the trade while saying that he agreed with the tough decision, that he had authority over the tough decision. And by the way, I love you, Luka. It did zero to make things better for Mavericks fans. If you're going to meet the media and you're the owner of the team and you don't speak much, here's the suggested tack that you take. I appreciate everyone's concern right now, but please know that the only thing that interests me is sustained winning, competing for championships every year. Remember that playbook that everybody says that I tell you is such horse hockey, but it's what every owner, GM, president, manager says when they're hired. I want sustained winning. I want competitive teams that we can all be proud of. Now's the time you use it. When you trade Luka, you got to bring that out. Dust it off. I don't know why he didn't do it. I'm glad that he told us it's hard to make tough decisions. I took a big life lesson from that. I'm glad he said it's hard to make the right decisions when they're tough. I had never thought of that. It's easy to do nothing. No, it's not. When you own a team, when you do anything, I've told you stagnation is a negative step. There is no such thing as nothing. You're either moving forward or you're moving back. I promise you, you're not standing still. You may think you are, but your frame of reference and point of reference is changing, which means you're moving backwards. Pretty simple rule. In life, in business, you are never staying the same. I don't know what's going to be with the Mavericks, Coca. And frankly, the Mavericks aren't even in as bad a position as the Lakers are. Lakers had their whole trade with Mark Williams. Everything. I got to text, Coke. I didn't even tell you this before the show. I got to text back and forth with Amin El-Hassan because he crushed me on Levitard last week. Oh, what a great trade. This is it. The Lakers have their big man. I'm like, Mark Williams certainly does get hurt a lot. You're really counting on him to all of a sudden start playing? My experience running the team is when you trade for an injured player, the injured player is going to be injured. Well, we didn't even get that far because the trade was rescinded. The Lakers did something you never want to do ever. They rescinded a trade because they failed a Mark Williams. Trades are pending physicals. You're supposed to exchange medical in advance. In baseball, you can exchange medical and decide to pass or not pass a player and then not do a trade. But once the trade's done, you better have a really good reason, San Diego Padres, a really good reason to reverse the trade. Doesn't happen often. And the fact that it happened in Los Angeles, acknowledging that we'd rather take back our players and try to make believe as though this nightmare ever happened. That's how bad the physical was for Mark Williams, which you're not supposed to know. It's all HIPAA. And then the Hornets are forced to release a statement welcoming Mark Williams back. That made me laugh that the Hornets are looking forward to the impact he will make on and off the court. You just traded the guy. It's all so uncomfortable. I got a lot of you reaching out to me on a topic for today, and I didn't know whether I wanted to talk about it, but I think we're going to. Coca?
You know what I want? I want to talk to Samson.
So you want to talk to Samson? Get into my X at David P. Samson or DavidSamsonPodcast.com. Ask me a question. I may make the show. David, now that football season is over, why exactly did you never retire any numbers or have a Hall of Fame? Did the owner do this to hide the lack of spending? Now, there's only a small percentage of you from Florida and an even smaller percentage of you who are Marlins fans, but this is a sort of interesting topic. The Miami Marlins announced during their Fan Fest this weekend that they were having their first inaugural, that is redundant, 4869, that the Marlins were going to have an inaugural class of Hall of Famers. And they announced Jim Leland won a World Series with the Marlins. The team only started in 93. Jack McKeon won a World Series with the Marlins. That's 2 World Series since 93. Jeff Conine, Mr. Marlin. Proviso, very good friend. Love you, Niner. Mr. Marlin, 2 World Series rings. Number 4, Luis Castillo. Truly an OG Marlin. Really, he's in the record books. He's number 1 ranked in so many offensive stats. His defense at second base, one of my favorite players of all time. That's the 4-person class. Let me bring it back to why we didn't have a Hall of Fame. We didn't ever think that we were going to be gone as quickly as 2017. I don't think our owner thought that he would sell the team that fast. I think that he figured he'd keep going. Obviously didn't plan for Jose Fernandez's death. When we talked about doing a Hall of Fame, we always wanted the team to have more history. We wanted to use it at a time when we could maximize what it would mean for attendance, what it would mean for excitement, how we would do it, where it would be in a new ballpark. We knew the Dolphins had a Ring of Honor. A bunch of teams do things like that. There's many different ways to skin the cat. And we just always felt like it was one of those things we could hold and we could then bring out at the right time when there's great momentum. Because my view is that when you do things like that, I want to make a good team great. I don't want to bring attention to a crappy team for a crappy season. And we had a few of those. There was also the retired numbers. Will Jeff Conine have his number retired? Will he be first? Will Jack McKeon be first? Will Livan Hernandez be first? Will Jose Fernandez be first? We talked about all sorts of things, and we had one retired number, Carl Barger. We got rid of that. And there are no retired numbers in Marlins history because, again, we didn't think we had the history. And as you're now 35 years in, and you're thinking that more and more there's opportunity for marketing, now's when you do it. I'm happy that Bruce Sherman, the owner of the Marlins, chose to do a Hall of Fame, but I did question why it was this year. When the Marlins are expected to lose 100 games, there's very little momentum at FanFest. There's very little sales. They announced 4 different dates where each player will have a day, a home game, where they're inaugurated, basically, into this Legends Club, their own Hall of Fame. I totally understand why the marketing department tried to convince the owner that this is what we should do. Let's sell into it. The problem is that all of the comments, all the discussion about it was he's not spending any money. They're not signing any free agents. The boom, the bang for the boom. I don't know. It's a Monday. The bang for the boom, it just sounds wrong, was not there for this announcement. And when you own a team, you've got to think that way because you're going to get approached with myriad ideas because people, A, are trying to keep their jobs, get better raises, better bonuses, try to improve their lot in life. So they're trying to make chicken salad out of chicken poo-poo. And so they're going to come to you with all sorts of stuff, and you have to have the discerning eye. You have to have a team president who's willing to understand, wait a minute, I am not going to agree to this right now. All the news of it swept away. I can't change the narrative of negativity, of our team being bad and 100-game bad multiple years in a row, not spending any money on free agents because I know we don't have the money to spend. I can't change that narrative with an announcement of bobbleheads or an announcement of a Hall of Fame, which is why I always tried to be very consistent in giveaways, be very consistent in announcements, because good or bad, and we had many years where we were suspected to be good, I wanted to have the ability to do stuff every year. It just, when you force something in business, you end up costing yourself. And it's not about the Super Bowl commercials. It's not about the allocation of your marketing resource. This is about you having an overall understanding of when is the right time to add money to the pot or to fold your cards. The life lesson of knowing when to hold them, when to fold them, is one that you need to carry with you and you need to learn and perfect because it is the most important lesson, other than eat your vegetables, brush your teeth, and floss. Knowing when to hold them and when to fold them, that actually can inform your success personally and professionally. The Marlins are just the latest example of a team that didn't quite get it right. And I obviously congratulate Louie and Jeff and Jack and Jim. This is not about you. It's just business. See you tomorrow. This is nothing personal.